Hello, I have had quite a few requests for how to use the pattern tool in Illustrator and whether I think it is a good tool or not. And I think it is a really fun tool to use, but I also think it is really important to know how to do a pattern without it. So to find the pattern preview tool, you'll go up to Window and scroll down until you get to pattern options and give it a click. And this is what it looks like here. And then it pulls up this window. If you already have it here, just click it and it will pop it out, and then click the three lines here and make pattern. So before we go and do that, you'll need to have your motifs organized properly. Well, I find that I need to have them organized properly because once you're in the tool, it works the same as in Illustrator, but it is just maybe slightly trickier. So if I've got a motif like this where I know I want all of these elements to be grouped, or a flower where I know I want all of these together, I would group them first so that when I'm in the pattern preview tool and I want to move these around, I can just click and drag and it takes the whole thing and I don't accidentally end up with one seed or one bit of colour moving on its own. So the way that I like to do this is I kind of like to arrange it a little bit before I take it in, just so that I don't have all of my motifs right next to each other. It doesn't need to be perfect. And then I will move these off the artboard, just so that it doesn't get, there's no extra confusing lines. So I have all of this selected and I'm going to click the pattern options tool and click the three lines and click make pattern, and then it has added it to the swatches panel, which means that there's a copy here of what it looks like right now, which we haven't fixed yet. So I'll click OK, and then this has pretty much just turned what I selected, this is kind of the box that I selected here, into a pattern, which you can kind of see that there's a few gaps and things like that. So one thing that's really cool about this tool is that at the moment it's just a normal grid, and if we do this drop down, you can change the pattern to brick by row. So if you just look at one motif, you can kind of see it. If you look at the watermelon, that's now shifted across. And in the brick by row, you can change the offset to a quarter. I think half is what it automatically comes up as. All sorts of different options. You can also go brick by column and then hex by column. These hex ones I think are kind of fun to play with, but they take a little bit of getting used to as well, or hex by row. So sometimes I'll just flick through these and find out which one I think looks the best to start with, and then kind of go from there when it comes to organising it. I'll do this hex by column because that's a fun one to do. So I just click and move these around a little bit to wherever I want them to go, and you can see that if I click it, it moves the whole motif. You can use all of the normal tools in here. If I click R, it brings up the rotate tool. If I zoom out, you will see them rotating in the whole pattern. Can you see them all there? And you can click S for scale, which makes it bigger. And you can see, like these ones over here, you can see that they get bigger and smaller. One thing that is different is that when you click and try to click to select just one bit, you can't do that. So I like to make sure that all my motifs I am happy with before I have made the pattern. And then sometimes it can be kind of hard to find out where this one is, like it might be a little bit close, but you just need to sort of look around a bit. It's just a little bit strange how it sets it up for you. You can also click and hold down the option key and you'll see the extra white arrow comes up, which means that it will duplicate. So that's one thing that I find really handy when it comes to trying to fill in gaps on this sort of one here, is you can just kind of duplicate them, fill in the gaps, scroll out, look and see are there any bits where you need something extra. I think this one here could maybe go over there. Yeah, and then so once you're happy with it, you can either say that the copy or go done. I normally click done, and then it's over here for you, and you can pull it out, and you have a pattern. Okay, I'm going to show you one more thing with this pattern tool, and that is that you can actually change the size. So I'm going to select this and go Window, Pattern, Options, Make Pattern. So the other thing that's really handy that I forgot to show you before is the width and the height. So you can actually change it. So say if you know that you want a pattern that's 6 inches by 6 inches, you can type 6 inches. You can type that in, and it will make it that size. So you've got this blue square here is 6 inches by 6 inches. So you know that that's the area that you're working with, and you can change this to any size that you like. You can also say that it will size the tile to art. So if you click this, it brings it in here, but watch what happens when I move this. It will move the blue box. And then you can also say move tile with art. It kind of does the same thing. I normally don't use them. I would normally say what sort of size that I would want it to start with. So if we go 6 inches by 6 inches again, and then down here you can see how many copies there are. There's 5 times 5, so there's 5 copies this way and 5 this way. So you can change that. You can have just the one, which isn't, I find that very helpful. 3 by 3, 7 by 7. It really depends on how big your pattern is, but this sort of thing can be really helpful when it comes to if you've got something you really like how this is laid out and you want it to fit together. You can come in here and you can just use the arrow keys to scroll it down until they all fit in nicely. You've also got dim copies, so you could have them dimmed even more so that you can see which ones are the copies and which ones are the actual pattern. I quite like it at 70%, and then you can also turn off the tile edge if you want to, which is this blue box. I find it handy to have it there, and you can show the swatch bounds as well. It's on a grid. If we go brick by row, then that will show. So this here is the tile edge, but once it's pulled into a pattern, it will show you that this is the actual size that it's going to be for where the repeat is. Yeah, hopefully that is helpful for you. Cancel that one. And one last thing is if you're going to edit the pattern, it does it a little bit differently to how I would do it manually. So if I was doing it manually, this, if we just put it on so we can see the blue box there, this flower here is repeated on all of these corners, but you can see that when it's repeated, it hasn't actually repeated the whole flower. It's just pulled the bits that it actually needs. Whereas if I was making a pattern manually, the whole flower would be in these areas. And you can see with the strawberry, this strawberry has kind of become broken because this bottom seed hasn't come across and the top ones haven't here. So I definitely like to make sure that I've got all of my motifs here and not just in the pattern. And sometimes I like to kind of go and fix these bits up just then if I'm having to make changes for a client or something. I know that the pattern's built how I want it, so I would go Shift Command G to deselect this, and then I would go through and delete all of these and sort of recopy them across where I need it to be. So you can click your bounding box here and you can see the size here to be able to move it where you want it to go. And then once you've ungrouped sometimes these all ungroup as well. So that is one of the limitations of doing a pattern this way, and why I think it is best to know how to do a pattern manually. But very, very fun tool, and I would love for you to have a play around with it, and please let me know what you think.